Chairs No Waiting, episode number 523, Act Like Somebody. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you by the folks over at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Drop by over at Weavers and check out some of the cool Mayberry things they've got there. We got Mayberry's finest coffees. That's right, we got other Mayberry's finest stuff coming. So if you go to foleysmarket.com, it'll take you to the food section of Weavers. So go check out those things there. Also check out the new book we got, Messages from Mayberry. If you enjoy the Mayberry Bible study, check that out. Head over to weaversdepartmentstore.com and check out everything over there. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you also by folks just like you. And the executive producer of tonight's show is Philip and Clanton Crumley. Hello, everybody. I'm Alan Newsom, your host for Two Chairs No Waiting. It's always a lot of fun to be here in Mayberry with you. I don't get to, I feel like I don't get to visit with you as much as I'd like to. And so tonight we're going to visit a little more than normal. I'm going to tell a story that nobody's ever asked me. There have been several episodes of the podcast over the years where people have asked, how did you get started being Floyd? So let me first off tell you, if you're new to the podcast or just don't know this yet, I am a tribute artist for Floyd the Barber. I go around to different Mayberry events around the country performing as Floyd, and some of you may have seen me. I've been to Mayberry Days ever since 1994, and that's what I want to talk about. But people have asked me how I got started. Now, there are podcast episodes that you can go and listen to, that like episode number 441 of this exact podcast. If you want to go over there and see and listen to it, it's called How Floyd Got His Start. That's me, not actual Floyd. And there's also episodes over there. If you scroll down, there'll be a link in our show notes. If you scroll down, you'll see there's an episode about keeping the spirit of Mayberry alive, and that's kind of about me a little bit. And then there's some other stuff like interviews with me back from episodes number 146. That was the third part, so go back to 140 something, 144, 45 and 46. I can't add. Those are about me as well. Now, all those episodes have been about interviews, just talking about the Andy Griffith Show or how I got started doing Floyd, which is an interesting story. So if you'd like to know that, you can head over and listen to 441, and I explain that. But I started thinking about, I've never actually talked about what it was like and when I first started doing Floyd the Barber. So I thought I might enjoy telling you these guys the story. Okay. So I'm going to get a little background music here. There we go. From the VW Boys. Thank you. So folks, I've been doing Floyd the Barber since 1994. Yes, it hurts me to tell you that, but I've been doing it since 1994. I went to Mayberry Days in Mount Airy, North Carolina, the very first time in 1993. And then the next year, if you go back and listen to the story from episode 441, where I told about how I got my start, David Browning taught me into going and trying to be Floyd at Mayberry Days. Well, you may or may not know or may not believe, but I'm an electrical engineer, and I'm kind of introverted. Yeah, I know. People don't believe me when I tell them that story, but I actually am. I've been doing Floyd, like I said, since 1994, but it's really not something that, I would have ever thought I'd be doing. So in 1994, I showed up at Mayberry Days for that very first time, completely out of my comfort zone. I'd been talked into being Floyd, or trying it, by David Browning. Great guy. He's the Mayberry deputy, if you don't know that. He was Barney. And when I first went to Mayberry Days in 93, there was only Barney and Ernest T. Bass. Those were the only two tribute artists. There weren't any others. So that first year I was there, I enjoyed walking down the streets of Mount Airy and seeing across the road over there, coming down the street of the town of Mayberry, which in my mind it is. There came Barney Fife. Jan and I, my wife, we were watching him come down the street, and we were like, wow, look at him. Look, he even moves like Barney. Look. We were grinning. It was like going to, I don't know, Universal Studios or somewhere and seeing, the Popeye walking down the street or something, or Disney World and seeing Mickey Mouse. There was Barney Fife walking down the streets of Mayberry. Wow. I'll never forget that feeling. There was just a smile, a joy, a happiness of seeing there's Barney. And then a little later, here came the street. There comes Ernest T. Bass with his burlap sack in his hand, giggling and laughing and hopping and jumping around, doing all that, coming down the street. And my chapter of the Andy Griffith Show, Rerun Watchers Club here in Huntsville, is Mother Figure. Well, Ernest T. Bass saw me and Jan wearing our Mother Figure T-shirts. And he came walking right up to us and goes, "My mother figure." Wow, I was living the dream that first year in 1993. I was there in my shorts and my Mother Figure T-shirt along with my wife and just enjoying the sights and sounds of Mayberry. Because it couldn't get much more Mayberry than seeing Barney and Ernest T. walking around the streets. Well, throughout the course of that next year, as I've told you, David Browning taught me into going and being Floyd. So I was going to be the third member of this tribute artist troupe, I suppose. But here I am. I'm only, 28 years old. Floyd was about my age now, which is 53. So I was a little young. And I was a little nervous. As I said, I'm an engineer. So I'm an electrical engineer. I'm a computer nerd to some degree. My job is really sitting in the background and just running the special effects or running the sound system or something along those lines. Not out in front of everybody, dressed up like a barber and acting like, well, let's just be honest. You're dressed up like a barber in front of a bunch of people. It's a little crazy, at least from my point of view, when I first started this. So I showed up at Mayberry Days with me and Jan. We went to the pig picking. Now, the pig picking, back in those days, this is 1994, it was the 5th Mayberry Days. And the pig picking was the awards ceremony for the Mayberry Days golf tournament that was held over at Cross Creek Country Club. And back in those days, the country club wasn't the size it is now, if you've ever been there. They got a really nice facility with a big banquet hall and everything. Well, back then, where we were actually having the pig picking, which was a barbecued pork dinner, was in I guess like a basement area. It was kind of underneath the actual Cross Creek Country Club. It was like a basement. It wasn't really a basement. I'm not quite sure how to show it, but it had kind of short ceilings and the rooms were all divided up. It wasn't one big room. But there I was getting dressed up like Floyd the barber. So as I got to Mayberry Days that year, I had my barber coat and all my barber supplies that went in my pocket. I had my little flyers that said I was Floyd. And I also had, for the country club meeting, I thought, hey, it'd be cool if I dressed up in the fishing outfit that Floyd wore when he and Barney got captured by the escaped convicts. So I was dressed up that night, or getting dressed actually, up in the locker room there at Cross Creek, putting on my fishing hat and my little windbreaker jacket and my plaid red shirt, getting dressed up like Floyd the barber to go down and be a part of the festivities related to the award ceremony for the golf tournament. I tell you, I was nervous, but Phil Lee, who was the first Ernest T. Bass there at Mayberry Days, Phil Fox does a fine job of it now, but Phil Lee was the first Ernest T., and he still does things with us. He's going to be with us in a couple of weeks up in Indiana. But he talked to me and said, hey, don't worry about it. Folks are going to just enjoy the fact you're dressed up and you're one of the characters You're going to have a good time. So he kind of put me at ease. Plus, nobody knew me. Almost nobody there actually knew who I was. There were only a few people in Mount Airy at Mayberry Days that would possibly know me because it's, 400 miles from my house. So nobody's going to know me. So I went out there wearing that fishing hat and with Barney and Ernest T. And we began to walk through the crowds, and people started talking to us and wanting their autographs and grinning and laughing and getting pictures made with us. And I was nervous. But after just a few minutes, everybody was enjoying themselves, and I was too. Smiling and laughing. And of course, if you're dressed up like Floyd, you have to talk like Floyd. You got to behave like Floyd. Yeah, you can't just walk around and look stupid. Because I always said, if I'm dressed like this, I'm going to act like Floyd. So if I'm dressed up like Floyd, I'm going to do my very best to stay in character the whole time. Folks seem to appreciate that. Anyway, that first night went pretty well, and I was dressed in that fishing outfit. Now, the fishing outfit was okay, but the real thing was getting to wear the barber coat and being out in town. But, I wasn't really quite sure. I just kind of showed up. Now, I'd been invited by Barney, David Browning, to come to Mayberry Days and do this. But, nobody knew I was coming. It wasn't announced. There was no reason that anybody would know that Floyd is going to show up, or at least some guy dressed up like Floyd. Some 28-year-old guy who at the time, which I don't have to do anymore, had to gray his hair a little bit on the side. Now I'm more likely to need to darken it a little bit so it's not completely turning gray. But back then I had to gray my hair and go out there and do Floyd. Well, folks, I hit the streets of Mount Airy the next day and was walking around with my Floyd outfit on, my Floyd barber coat, my tie, my brush, my comb and my scissors, walking around town there in Mount Airy. And I remembered what it was like that first year I went to Mayberry Days, the year before, seeing Barney walking down the street and thinking, wow, there's Barney. That's awesome. Look over there's Barney. And I remember seeing Ernest T going, there's Ernest T. Bass. He's got rocks in that bag. I know he does. And he did. So, folks, it was fun to see people's faces as they saw Floyd and came over and started talking to me and doing lines, and I would have to respond with the correct lines. It was a lot of fun. And the name of this podcast is Act Like Somebody. Well, that's what I was doing. I was acting like somebody. Like I said, I'm introverted. I'm one of those people, if I go in a room full of folks, normally I just kind of hover toward the walls, or maybe I just go over and talk to the people I know over there in that corner because I know them. You might be like that too. I don't know. But if you are, I want to encourage you, because I got out and completely out of my comfort zone. And I went out and I dressed up like a barber. I'm not asking you to do that, but I'm telling you what I did. I went out and I dressed up like a barber. Could have made a fool of myself. May have. Some of you might think. But I got out there and I started talking with people. And I visited with them. And you know what? I've made some of the best friends in my entire life because of the Andy Griffith Show. Because of going out there on a limb and acting like somebody. I got out there and I've met actors from the Andy Griffith Show. I've met just fans of the Andy Griffith Show. Galore. Tons. And you know what? They're special folks. Special people that I would never have met. Jan and I were talking about it earlier. We would have never met so many of you, so many folks that I've met because of Mayberry. I'd have never had a chance to do that. So I know it's scary if you're introverted. Now, you folks that are not introverted, you don't have any idea what I'm talking about. If you're one of those people that have never met a stranger, you can't understand what it's like when you're kind of introverted. And you sit back and you're afraid to talk to people. Like, I don't know what you're afraid of. Like, I don't know, they're going to reject you. I don't know what it is, but that's the way we are. We feel afraid. Of course, it's never really that bad. If you ever start talking to somebody and visiting with them, it's never as bad as what you and your mind have made it up to be. And I'll tell you, it has blessed my life getting to be Floyd and getting to meet people and going to Mayberry Days and watching people walk up and smile. And I'll never forget the first people that walked up with a Sharpie and said, "Would you sign my T-shirt?" And I'm going, are you sure? It's going to ruin your T-shirt when I sign. I'm going to write my name. I'm nobody. And I'm not. But Floyd is. And Floyd the barber makes people happy. He makes them smile and puts a smile on their face. But you know what? You can do the same thing. People may not want you to write it on their T-shirt. You might get in trouble for that. I don't know. But just getting to meet people and talking to them and get out there and act like somebody so that you can meet them too. Because you just don't know what you're missing. And I tell you what's safe. Come to one of these Mayberry events. We're going to be having the Mayberry meetup in July. That'd be a good time to come because you know what? You got something in common with everybody there. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously a fan of the Andy Griffith Show. So guess what? We got automatically something to talk about. We already got a lot in common. And I promise you, getting out and putting yourself out a little bit and acting like somebody is going to bring a lot of joy to your life. The Andy Griffith Show has blessed me. It has blessed my family, blessed my wife, myself, and even my son, who doesn't really seem to care much about the Andy Griffith Show, obviously. But he's been able to meet people that he wouldn't have met. You know, Don Knotts and Howard Morris and so many others. You can do the same thing. Now, maybe you don't get to meet those people. And while the cast members of the Andy Griffith Show are amazing people, and I'm so glad I met them, it's people just like you that I've met that has been a blessing in my life. There's people here that come every Monday night and listen to this podcast live when I record it. That's a blessing. They're friends. Now, I don't see them very much. They're online. I see them there. But I tell you what, they're friends. And I'd have never met any of them if I hadn't gone out there, put on a barber coat, picked up some shears, and basically all the other clothes were already in my closet. The rest of my Floyd clothes I already kind of had. I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's the truth. But you go out there and meet people and visit with them, and I promise you, that's what the Andy Griffith Show's about. That's what Mayberry's about, friends and family and getting to know one another. There's a lot of special people out there in the world, so go out there and act like somebody and get to meet them. I know you will not be disappointed. All right, so there's more to that story, I suppose, of me as Floyd. I've been able to do so many things. If you're watching the video, you've seen all kinds of pictures that are related to different Mayberry events I've been involved in and just other parts of my life. But it has been an amazing journey, and I have loved it. So, folks, don't go away. If you're bored to death by that story, you are in for a treat because we're going to hear from Randy Turner in This Week in Mayberry History. Take it away, Randy.
Welcome to This Week in Mayberry History, a report by special correspondent Randy Turner of the Gomer and Cooper Pyle Comic Book Literary Guild of the Mayberry Historical Society.
Edgar Buchanan was born on March the 20th, 1903 in southwestern Missouri, though he spent most of his childhood in Oregon, as his dentist father and his family moved there when he was 7. After high school, Edgar, whose nickname was Buck, chose to follow in his father's footsteps and took pre-med classes during college in Eugene, Oregon, though he also took classes in drama. He went on and studied at the School of Dentistry in Portland, receiving his doctorate of dental surgery in 1928. While a student, he met and fell in love with a fellow student there, and they were married the same year they graduated. They established an oral surgery practice in Eugene, practicing dentistry there from 1929 to 1937. During that time, he also worked as an assistant to the local university's drama coach. He and his wife also had a son while there, whom they gave the name Buck, Edgar's nickname. Afterward, the family moved to Altadena, California, near Hollywood, where he and his wife continued practicing dentistry. While working as a dentist, Edgar also joined the Pasadena Playhouse, where he frequently appeared in plays. He began appearing in small film roles, making his debut in the 1939 crime film My Son is Guilty. He appeared in more than half a dozen films in 1940, again in small roles, until a talent scout spotted him during one of his stage performances at the Pasadena Playhouse. This led to his first substantial role, playing a judge in the Jean Arthur and William Holden Western Arizona, released on Christmas Day in 1940. Edgar fittingly played a dentist in the 1941 Western Texas, a role he said was his favorite. The film also starred Holden, as well as Glenn Ford. Edgar and Ford would eventually become good friends and appeared in a dozen more films together. An interesting anecdote is that Edgar was sometimes called upon to use his actual dental skills during productions. Glenn Ford once said that in the circumstance where Edgar had to perform a painful dental procedure on him, the only anesthesia available was others allowing him to drink a shot of whiskey periodically. He claimed that every third time this happened, Edgar took a shot too. Around this time, Edgar turned over his practice full-time to his wife and pursued acting exclusively. His rotund physique and distinctive, raspy voice became much in demand. Over his 35-year career, he appeared in well over 100 films, including Penny Serenade with Cary Grant, Cheaper by the Dozen in which Betty Lynn appeared, and the classic Western Shane. He made his television debut in a 1950 anthology show, and 2 years later was cast as series regular Red Connors in the series Hopalong Cassidy, in which he appeared for 2 seasons. The following year, 1955, Edgar starred as the title character in the syndicated Western series Judge Roy Bean. All during this time, Edgar also appeared in numerous guest roles, as well as playing recurring characters in Tales of Wells Fargo and The Rifleman. Early in the second season of The Andy Griffith Show, in December 1961, Edgar appeared in Mayberry's Henry Wheeler, a low-level con man who approached women posing as a handyman and then took advantage of their affection to get free meals and lodging. As Sheriff Mitchell said, the only thing Henry was handy with was the ladies. In 1963, Edgar began the role for which he is best known, Uncle Joe Carson, who was moving kind of slow, in Petticoat Junction. He played Uncle Joe all 7 seasons and was one of only 3 actors to appear during the entire run, the others being Frank Cady and Linda Henning, the daughter of the series creator Paul Henning. As in all of Henning's series, the characters sometimes crossed over. Uncle Joe was also seen in 16 episodes of Green Acres and 3 of the Beverly Hillbillies. While filming his signature role, Edgar also found time to appear in the 1969 Andy Griffith film Angel in My Pocket. Anticipating the eventual end of the Henning series, Edgar also appeared in the TV movie The Over the Hill Gang, which was hoped to spawn a series. It did not, though it did spawn a sequel in which he also appeared, The Over the Hill Gang Rides Again. During the 1971-1972 season, Edgar and his old friend Glenn Ford co-starred in the series Cades County. Edgar's last role was in the 1974 film Benji, which coincidentally was also Francis Bavier's final appearance. Edgar passed away in 1979. Well, that's it for this week. As always, thanks for listening. And remember to take Andy's advice and go out there and act like somebody.
Wow. Thank you, Randy. Thank you for that report. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of Randy's amazing reports, send him an email at turnersgrade@gmail.com, turnersgrade@gmail.com, and he'll fix you up like a dentist. I had no idea that Mr. Wheeler was a dentist. Congratulations. I did not know that. That's amazing. Who would have ever, and his wife was a dentist. So they were both dentists. Wow. Yeah. I bet they had good teeth in their family. Yeah. So, anyway, wow. Did you know that? I did not know that. So Randy, again, with a little trivia from out of nowhere, a great history report. Thank you again, Randy. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you get some encouragement out of this, to get out there and act like somebody. And just get out there and don't be afraid to put yourself out. Because you know what? You'll probably be rewarded for it. So good luck with that. I hope you do. Folks, I want to thank you for being here. And I want to ask that you give me a call at 888-684-8415. Let me know what you think about the show. Tell me about you getting out of your comfort zone and how maybe it helped you. Or just talk about how Mayberry has changed your life. That's interesting. All that stuff is great to hear. I'd love to hear from you. You can email me too at floyd.mayberry.com. But however you want to contact me, I'd love to hear from you. Folks, have a great Mayberry week. And I'll see you right back here in Mayberry next time. See y'all later.